Eternals was supposed to be one of the 3 MCU releases in 2020, but of course, due to the pandemic, it was delayed until 2021, and then when it was eventually released, it became something of a critical failure, or people didn't really go to see the film, they didn't really know what it was doing, and as a result of it, it kind of got pushed off to the side of it, as people just considered this movie to be bad. But I finally had a morbid curiosity, I checked it out, and you know what, I don't actually think it's as bad as everyone was building it up to be. I mean, admittedly, it's no Avengers Endgame, or Captain America the Winter Soldier, but I do actually think this is one of those films that people just kind of ripped apart, and it doesn't really deserve it. And here's the thing, I always kind of knew that it was going to be at least okay. Because here's the thing. There are 2 scary things that Marvel could do in terms of the MCU. And that one is introduce us to a completely new set of characters that we have no idea who they are or what they're about. And the other is introduces us to characters who we've already got to know from other studios. Those are the 2 big scary ones, and Eternals is kind of the former. We've no idea who... Well, for most movie-going audiences, we have no idea who the Eternals were. We have no idea what they're about. So Marvel with them are effectively having to start from scratch. And I always kind of knew it was going to be okay, because, while not every new character that Marvel has tried to introduce has ever gone well, you look at the Inhumans, they did manage to take the Guardians of the Galaxy, a rather obscure team at first that only really hardcore comic fans had ever heard of, and they managed to make them big screen names. Everyone now knows about Star-Lord, Gamora, Groot, Drax, Rocket, Mantis, all the rest of them, but we didn't yet. But yet, at first, we knew nothing about them. So I kind of knew Eternals was going to be okay because, well, they're trying out something new, but we ultimately know they can do it. Now, I may end up going into spoilers here. I'll try not to spoil certain parts, but anyway, here the basic story is you've got these group of aliens, well, humanoid aliens, and they believe that they come from the planet Olympia. Now, they've been sent to Earth to combat monstrous creatures known as the Deviants. They've been placed there by a kind of large sentient galactic robots known as the Celestials, with the main one throughout the film being Arishem, voiced by David Kaye. And the Eternals are humanoid creatures, and they seemingly live for a very long time, and they seemingly don't age. You've got a selection of Eternals, including Cersei, played by Gemma Chan, Icarus, played by Richard Madden, Kingo, played by Kumail Nanjiani, Sprite, played by Leah McHugh, Phastos, played by Brian Tyree Henry, Makkari, played by Lauren Ridloff, Druig, played by Barry Keoghan, Gilgamesh, played by Don Lee, Ajak, played by Salma Hayek, and Thena, played by Angelina Jolie. They've been sent to ward off the Deviants from planet Earth, and ultimately do so. However, after they ward off the Deviants, they're not really sure what to do with themselves, and all of them end up going their separate ways. However, years later, in the present day, when one of the Eternals, Ajak, played by Salma Hayek, is seemingly found dead, it's assumed that it's shown that the Deviants have returned, and the Eternals have to find a way to sort things out, but in doing so, they find out they may be actually part of an even greater conspiracy, and what they knew may not be what is actually real. Now, I did have to do a little bit of research on these characters when the film was first announced. I eventually ended up getting the Neil Gaiman version of Eternals just to watch it through, and I'll admit the Eternals weren't actually the characters that I was kind of the most excited to see. Don't get me wrong, I was excited to see the Eternals and what they could do, but honestly, the character that I was particularly interested in seeing for a while was Black Knight, played by Kit Harington, Dane Whitman. He's not Black Knight yet, He'll get to that. But Black Knight was a character that I personally felt they should be on Marvel's next slate. Like, they'd introduced a lot of the big Avengers, and I felt Black Knight, was kind of next in line. So he was a character that I was really interested in seeing what they could do with him, and I'll admit I'm even okay with his casting of Kit Harington. Now, I personally wasn't that big a fan of Game of Thrones. I mean, I watched through the first season, but I just kind of discovered it wasn't really my thing. But I did like the casting of Kit Harington as the Black Knight. It kind of felt like, yeah, that sounds about right. But the casting for pretty much this entire movie is great. I mean, the only other things that I've seen Gemma Chan in, one is she appeared in Captain Marvel as one of the members of the kind of Starfleet named Minerva. And the other is that she appeared in the 2009 Doctor Who episode, The Waters of March, by Mia Bennett. So, nice bit of thing for you. And I will admit, this is definitely very good casting. I mean, I feel like Angelina Jolie is one of these people who had to turn up in a Marvel movie eventually. I just kind of maybe assumed that she was going to be like a background character, but no, she actually does really well with what she's given. I mean, she seems like this really kind of mellow character, but then when she has moments when she does kind of lose her mind and she ends up fighting, she does so very well. I mean, even Don Lee as Gilgamesh, I mean, when he ultimately finds out that Ajax has been killed, the reaction that he gives feels very genuine. Just like when he finds out that Ajax killed, he just kind of stops. It's just like, and it's just completely almost gone, and it feels very genuine. Also, two big things they did with the characters in this film. One is they announced at one point that one of the members of the team was going to be the first openly gay superhero. And I'll admit, kind of looking at the... I forgot who it was for a while, but upon looking at the kind of marketing material, I kind of assumed, okay, maybe it's Kingo who's going to be the first openly gay one, because his thing that he shows away from the team is that while he was gone, he somewhat became a Bollywood film star. Kind of lots of dancing, lots of music, and maybe I just kind of assumed from stereotypes that, okay, he's going to be the openly gay one. But no, it's actually Fastos, played by Brian Tyree Henry. Like, away from the rest of the team, he went off, he got himself a husband, and they had a child together. He's actually very genuine, and it's very sweet to see them together. The other big thing they noticed was that Makkari, played by Lauren Ridloff, was going to be the first deaf superhero. And upon having read the comic, originally Makkari was male in the comic, and his alter ego when he was on Earth was literally Mark Curry. So I will admit I was a little anxious about when the person who was going to be Makkari in the film was going to be one female and two deaf, but they actually did manage really good with it. I mean, Makkari, I think she never actually says a word throughout the entire film, but with her sign language and her actions, you can definitely tell she's a great character. Now, as I say, it does include a great cast, including Karan, who's kind of Kingo's PA, played by Harish Patel, who's just kind of there to document everything, which is he definitely gets some funny moments. The main deviant Crow is voiced by Bill Skarsgård, and I'll admit the entire thing, it does feel very genuine, and it does feel like a really good film. There was only one piece of casting that I'll admit when I saw it I was like, okay, we'll see about that. And sorry if this comes off as a little prejudice but anyway, it literally comes in in the mid-credits scene. Like the film's over, everything's winding down, and we see a group of them on board the spaceship heading off into the just into the universe to try and find out what's happening. And they end up meeting a pair of characters who come on board their ship. Eros, a Star Fox, and Pip the Troll. Now, Pip the Troll I don't have a problem with. Pip the Troll is played by Patton Oswalt, and Patton Oswalt has definitely shown in various things that he can definitely act, and act very well. in things like Dollhouse, Ratatouille, and all the rest of it. He's a great actor, and it feels good to have him in the MCU. The one that I was a little bit unsure about is Eros, or Star Fox. Now, when they bring him in, and you see he's played by Harry Styles, I was just like, okay, we'll see how we go with this. Because, okay, maybe I'm just a bit prejudiced about this, but it just feels a little bit odd to me because we've known Harry Styles for years as a member of One Direction, as a professional singer on his own. I'm just not entirely that familiar yet with his acting work. Like, maybe he can act, and he's acted really well on other projects. I just felt it a little bit odd to see this person who I've known for years as a singer and just see him in this MCU movie now as an actor. I'm just like, okay. But that's the only one I felt I was a little bit unsure about. But I will admit, Eternals I felt got a bad rap, but I think it's definitely better than people think. I mean, it is 2.5 hours long, so maybe some people just don't want to put in the time for what they consider could be a bad project. But at the end of it all, I'd say Eternals is definitely worth at least checking out at least once. So if you haven't seen Eternals, I'd say give it a shot. You might just be surprised. Anyway, till my next review, see ya.